This is the Growing Farms Podcast with John Siskovich, episode number 91. Hello, everybody, and welcome. A farm update, Camps Road Farm here in Western Connecticut, and a little bit of farm marketing solutions news today as well. I'm going to start with the news. It's exciting. I can't hold it in. I've released it on YouTube. It's out in the world now. I have a book. I have a very published, legit paper book that you can hold in your hands, and it's so cool. Stress-free chicken tractor plans. It's on Amazon. If you go to farmmarketingsolutions.com/plans, the ebook that I've been selling for the last couple of years and had great response. I polled all the people who had bought it, put in some updates, created an entirely new second edition, and launched it. So that link will be in the show notes for this episode. You can just go to farmmarketingsolutions.com and you'll find it in the store. But yeah, all in all, really, really exciting. I have a book. I'll talk about it more in the future. I don't want to take up the whole show today with a big commercial for myself, but let's get into the farming. What have I been up to? So we're going to run through broilers, pigs, apples, hops, and then some general farm updates and special things to note. Let's start with broilers. I run batches of 240 birds. I have 5 batches throughout the year, so I call them batch 1, batch 2, batch 3, batch 4. Batches 1 through 3 are in freezers or in people's stomachs right now, or, the journey beyond. And batch 4 is on the pasture, in my northwest pasture, and batch 5 just came in August 17th. My last batch of birds for 2016 is in the brooder, doing really well. The birds look really good. Kate and I have done really well with the brooder setup. Everything seems to be going very smoothly. I knock on wood because I'm recording this and I have to go out and check them afterwards. So hopefully everything is going really well, but I'm really happy with the way those birds have progressed so far. Batches 1 through 3, batches 1 and 2 had some problems where the birds were undersized and I wasn't really happy about it. And even at 8 weeks, these Cornish cross broilers were not reaching the typical sizes that I would normally see. And because it's so hard, there's so much inflexibility with my processing that if I wanted to hold them back, I couldn't and let them grow a little bit more just because I set up all those processing dates in like March. But hopefully in the future, there's more processors and we can change dates and I can figure out why my birds are growing slow. And on that bird growing slow note, batches 1 and 2 grew a little slow, were a little small. I had some birds finishing out in the 2-pound range, which is very difficult. It's $4.75 to process a bird, whether it comes out as 2 pounds or as 5 pounds. 5 pounds, way more profitable for me than a 2-pound bird. Sure, I can sell a bunch of these small birds as fryers, but my margins dip down. I can sell the 4 to 5 pound birds just as easy as I can the 2-pound birds, and I make more money off the 4 to 5 pound birds. So that's ideally where I would like to be. I'd like to have a more consistent product, and I'm trying to figure this out. And it even came into batch 4. Batch 3 was pretty good. My process weights were good, and I was like, sweet, we turned it around. Whatever hiccup happened has fixed itself, and now we're into batch 4. And I'm looking at these birds, and I got a handful of birds that are literally a handful. At 6 weeks of age, they're like the size of a coffee mug. And that's just tough when I'm looking at these birds and the processing is 2 weeks out, another 14 days. And those birds are supposed to be, 4 pounds finished weight, carcass weight. That's tough. So I called the processor and pretty much like as much as you can be on your knees on the phone, called them and was like, please, can we push the date back? I don't know what else to do to get these birds to grow. They're not eating through all their feed. I've given them fresh feed. They're on good grass. Can we push it back a little bit? So we added a little over 2 weeks to that batch. And my hope is that all the birds size up to a more reasonable size and everybody's health maintains. I've added now 2 weeks of labor onto those birds, so that discussion about profitability, the profitability on those birds has gone down because now my overhead is increased. But if I make more money by having more pounds, that balances out just a little bit. What a mess. I'm glad that I don't have another batch of birds after this one, that these are my last 2, and I have 2 separate sets of chicken tractors, and I can manage the ones in the field and the ones in the brooder separately and with enough space. If this were to happen early in the season, it would throw everything off for the rest of the season, and that's kind of tough. So some of the variables that I've been looking into with these small birds is, my brooder, how clean is it? Have we been really maintaining and tracking putting down fresh savings and making sure there's enough airflow and proper temperature, because temperature and humidity and moisture in the brooder can have a really serious effect on how the birds gain weight or don't gain weight going forward. Haven't noticed really any disease. Everybody's manure is firm and nice and good, the way chicken manure is supposed to look. I could look into the feed a little bit more, but I've already talked to the feed mill, and it didn't make too many major adjustments there from years past and batches past. And I don't know enough about feed and nutrition to really micro analyze exactly what may have changed or what might be different. I just don't know. As access to water, and I sat out in the field and watched the birds drinking the water from the waterers that I have. So I don't think that's the problem. But it was, I'm running out of options here. I've called the hatchery and sent the hatchery pictures and said, hey, here's a picture. That bird is 6 weeks old. And they're like, oh, no, we didn't necessarily believe you on the first email when you didn't send pictures. But now that you sent pictures, no, there's something wrong there. And they're very, very supportive. And they're doing a great job of trying to help me figure it out. They're in a distance and running a completely other business, and they can't be on farm and see all the variables. Plus, they only hatch the chicks. They weren't caring for them for the last 6 weeks. So who the heck knows? So I hope I can figure this out. It's a real stressor for me, not having the batches of birds as predictable and balanced as I have in the past. But that's part of the nature of farming, is that things go awry sometimes, and you get better at farming because I'll figure this out, and then I'll have that knowledge in my back pocket. You become an expert because you keep screwing up, and you hopefully either you keep screwing up and you don't fix your business and you go out of business, or you keep screwing up and you fix everything, and over time you just run out of variables, or you know how to solve the different problems because you've solved them in the past. So that's where broilers are at right now. A little stressful, but let's get into pigs. Pigs are doing great. They're sizing up perfectly. I got pigs from a different breeder this year. They're all different sizes. They're starting, as they get bigger, to all kind of form into similar sizes, but I still have this one runt. And it was a beautiful thing that I had this runt, because I had some chefs over the other day, and they have a scheduled beer event that we had put a pig aside for their beer event because we have a brewery. And they were like, I don't think we want a 200-pound pig. And we were like, what about the runt? And they were like, yeah, we'll take the runt. That is perfect. So my smaller pig, which I was worried about, I don't want to give that to a pork share member because that's not enough pork for what they're paying, and we kind of have a set price. And, what do I do with this runt? And then, a little bit outside the box, thinking that they wanted a whole pig and to do a pig roast and do this event, but they didn't want a 200-pound pig, and I didn't schedule the processing a pig earlier for their event. They take the runt. Runt's good. So I have 18 pigs total, including that runt. I've been rotating them through my hop yard, which has been a lot of fun. They are crushing feed. I've never done as many as 18 pigs before. And to watch the pigs get into that feeder, and I'll put 300 pounds of feed out, and in 2 days it's gone. And I'm like, are you guys serious? You know how much food that is and how much that costs? But I have been giving them fresh pasture every week. I'm actually rotating them more often now than I was in the beginning. It was weekly in the beginning, but now I've been kind of squidging their fence along, moving their fence besides the whole entire big move, just to keep adding fresh grass. We have vegetables coming out of the garden now, and I've been feeding them vegetables, or the seconds, or we grew a lot of squash, and all the squash that get really big that get left behind, give the squash to the pigs. They love that. I've dumped some brewer's grains in there to see how the pigs do that. They don't really eat the brewer's grain. They kind of play around in it, but I figured it was worth a try again. But pigs are sizing up. We're selling the pigs through half and whole shares, where people buy a half and a whole pig, put down a deposit, and then we go through this rigmarole of slaughtering them on farm, bringing them to a butcher, bringing the meat from the butcher to a smokehouse, having the smokehouse smoke it, and then bringing the meat from the smokehouse to the customer, and the customer picks up the fresh meat at the butcher. It's like this web of a logistical nightmare where we're doing a lot of driving around and dropping things off, but we're processing 4 pigs a week, some of them USDA and some of them under the small farm custom exemption here in Connecticut. Everything following the rules and the laws to the best of our abilities. Actually, it is what it is. Laws are black and white. It's not the best of our abilities, but we're following the laws where the pre-sold animals can be custom slaughtered, and the ones that we're not pre-selling and we're bringing to our farmer's market and bringing to a restaurant, the entire process is done under USDA inspection. I have almost all the pigs sold right now. There's a few left to sell. I'm not really worried about it because any ones that don't, if I don't pre-sell, if I don't give that last little boost to my marketing and sell these pigs, I can still sell them at retail. I have a farmer's market that goes every weekend throughout the winter. So not really worried about it. I have the storage space. My inventory with chickens is low right now, so I definitely have the freezer space. And I'll figure it out. It's all this like logistical balance. It's part of me not going from 0 to 100 pigs because I would just be drowning in pork. But from 0 to 12 and then 12 to 18, just because figuring out the logistics year to year, what smokehouses I like, what slaughterhouses I like, what the process is like, and then marketing, a rather expensive piece of pork to customers. That is what it is. On to apples, our apple orchard. We've been mowing and trying to keep it clean and pest-free. We have the limbs trained, and we're going to start to pull the wires off of those really soon. So what do I mean by that? The apple trees, when they're growing, they want to grow towards the sun, and they send their branches straight up, pretty much. You want those branches out to the side, which adjusts the crotch angle, which is where the tree branch matches the trunk. And if that crotch angle is too steep and the branch is growing vertically, when it's weighted down with fruit, it'll snap off. So you go through in the middle of the summer when the tree is green and flexible, pull the limbs down, and we anchored ours to the ground with some electric wire and some bamboo stakes. Really cheap, really efficient, really quick. And let them grow like that for a while. The trees will be like, I don't like this at first. And then all of a sudden, not all of a sudden, but over time, they'll just start to grow into those adjusted angles, which is great. So we're going to go check on that, pull those wires really soon. But all in all, just keeping it neat and trim, cleaning around it, just trying to keep rodents out of there and getting them so they're not established. So in the fall and over the winter, we don't have a rodent problem like we did last year. Our hops are actually doing really well. The hop plants that were established are doing really well. The rest of the areas, we haven't had enough time to invest in replanting or working that ground, but I was actually actively working on that this week. So with the hop yard, we have 21 rows. Each row is 250 feet long, so 5,250 feet of hops. And some of those rows of hops we wanted to take out, and some of them were just leaving in and working on it. We've been growing as a hop yard. It's been kind of as much as a piece of production as an experiment on farm, and the hop resources today are way different than they were when we put the yard in. We didn't get some good root stock when we got the yard in. We made some mistakes over the last couple of years. I mean, a lot of this was just my management and me learning how to be a better hop farmer. So we decided to take out 8 rows, and the pigs have been chewing up those 8 rows, and that's where I've been rotating through, letting the grass grow, and then having the pigs just hammer it. And I was looking at it the other day, thinking about, what do I want to do with this area going forward? We're scheduled to replant in the fall. How do I prep the site? Because the grass and weeds are starting to grow back. And realized that, the pigs, for tillage and getting rid of the grass, all right, they did a decent job. What they were really good for was getting rid of the old hop varieties because they chewed up the rhizomes. Now, as much as things are growing back now, none of the old hop plants are growing back, which is really good because I can till and plow or, just mulch so I don't have to do so much mechanical work the rest of the areas. But the real worry was the old hop plants and then mixing in with the new hop plants. The pigs have very successfully gotten rid of those old hop plants, and now I can get in there and manage it going forward so that we can replant in the fall. I have a couple ideas up my sleeve. I'm thinking about, with these 250-foot rows, buying some round bales and rolling the round bales out in the middle of the aisle and then scooching the hay over and using that for mulch. I have a big pile of wood chips that I could use. I could buy fabric. It all comes down to I have to pull the trigger in the next week or two and decide on my mulch and get the mulch on those areas so that they're ready to plant and the grass has been killed off for this fall. I might go through and plow it and then seed it with clover and mulch the rows where I'm going to put the hop plants. I haven't really decided on what I have the time and money for yet, but it's coming up soon. I've been thinking about it all year. My plan keeps adjusting as I kind of waffle on it, and we'll see what happens. The rest of the hop yard, cut out any unused strips of coir. The coir is the string that we train and trellis the hops up. And just general, keeping it clean, keeping them irrigated. We've been irrigating because it's been really hot and not really wet outside, and the hops need the water. Otherwise, they get really stressed out and they're more susceptible to insects. So trying to keep the hop plants strong. In general, like maintenance going through and like looking for bugs and seeing if we have to squish anything or spray anything. And all in all, we'll get a decent harvest this year. I'm really excited about it. The hop plants look really good. And then general farm updates. I think last time I told you guys we had an expansion into the brewery, which I helped out with, setting up some new tanks and all that stuff. And then on farm, just preparing for this Hop Harvest Festival. Actually, we've been putting a lot of work into that this week. So Hop Harvest Festival, either you have a hop yard, and either you have the $50,000 hop harvester, which I couldn't buy yet, or you host a festival and you have 100 to 200 people come up to the farm, buy a ticket, pick hops. We pull the hops out of the yard. They pick the flowers off the bines. We compost the bines, and we take the flowers and bring them to the brewery and use them in a beer. And then we have a pig roast. We have a local chef working with us who actually did a collaboration beer with our brewery. He's an awesome guy, Marcel. Excited about it. Community table. And Marcel's going to be doing the cooking and preparing a lot of the food off-site. We're going to provide a lot of the food from the farm and from neighboring farms. And then we have a buffet with a pig roast, and it's amazing. And the farm earns a few bucks. We have fun. We build a lot of community. People have been coming back year to year. I love people like, oh, I've been to the last couple hop harvests. I wouldn't dream of missing this one. Oh, this is so good. And I'm really excited for it. A hop harvest should be good. It's a very stressful day for me. I kind of act as a runner when people need stuff, or extra plates or soap or clippers or gloves, or people need this or that. I'm running around like a mad person, just kind of answering questions and solving problems. We have a big staff coming out this year. We have people working from the brewery. We have just Kate and I on farm, so we're down a few farmers. There's a couple people who normally come who aren't able to come this year, but even my mother-in-law is coming out to help, like sign in tickets and stuff. So it should be a really good time. I'll tell you guys more about it in a future podcast episode. Then on to the big announcement for Farm Marketing Solutions. Scott and I have been spent the summer. Oh wow, that's a good sentence. Spent the summer in the spring working on this book and working on the infrastructure for Farm Marketing Solutions, and it's all kind of like coming into actuality, and it's so amazing. We have a book out. Stress-free chicken tractor plans. So as I said in the beginning of the episode, a couple years ago, I published a PDF. I had a poultry farm here in Connecticut where I was raising chickens on pasture and chicken tractors. I had designed the chicken tractors to be taller so I could walk into them, be a little bit smaller so I could have them be more portable and easy to move around on farm. You can make arguments one way or another on efficiency and this and that, but the design has worked for me for the last now 4 years, and I'm still happy with it, still going forward. None of the chicken tractors are falling apart at all, which is really good. And so I started posting pictures of these chicken tractors online, just trying to sell chickens. And I got a lot of questions from the internet, from you guys, saying, where'd you get plans for these? These things are great. They look good. They solve some of the problems that I've been facing with raising chickens and chicken tractors. And I said, I don't know, I'll create them. And I have a design background. And now with the second edition, I went through and completely rewrote the entire thing, hand drafted every step-by-step instruction on how to bend the conduit, how to cut the wood, what tools you're going to need, what materials. I explain all the materials choices. So, if you're standing in your local hardware store and it's between option A and option B, you'll have a little bit more insight on to choose option A because John recommends this. So right now we're launching on Amazon. The Amazon links are always like long and stressful. There's a lot of numbers and letters. So we made a really easy link for you guys to follow. If you go to farmmarketingsolutions.com, here's the important part, fms.com/plans, PLANS. And that will take you to the Amazon listing. We're doing really well on Amazon right now. Like the launch is going well, and people are buying the book. More exciting to me than people buying the book and like being able to hold the book and whatever, it's on Kindle and print as well, is that there's going to be more people raising chickens. More people raising chickens on grass, either trying it out for a homestead or starting to add it in to their small scale sustainable farm production. Just cool. building a community of people who can talk about birds. I mean, it does so many things for me that, again, I'll talk about in a future episode. We're reaching our 20-minute mark, and that's my new format. But it's doing good things in the world. I'm trying to be that change that Diego Footer always talks about, being the change you want to see in the world, that famous quote. And just doing the work, getting it done, encouraging people to raise chickens on grass. Because quite frankly, I love it. We need more of it. We need more infrastructure for people who raise chickens on grass. And the more people who do it, the more people who will be asking about it, the more likely it will be that it'll be easier to get processing dates, and there'll be more businesses opening up around the world. And it just gets into my lofty ideals of like, I want to see farming grow. All the work that all the ag people, I'm really just thinking about Joel Salatin here and how crucial pasture poultry profits was for me in my life, and kind of a life-changing book, because I read it and I was like, well, for better or worse, I'm jumping in both feet. Thanks, Joel. I keep that book next to my desk, and now I'm adding to the library with my own book. If he's encouraged thousands of people to get into chickens and farming chickens and raising pasture poultry, I hope I can do my part over the coming years to add on and stand on the shoulders of that giant. So thank you, Joel, for everything you've done, even though I don't think you've listened to this podcast, but you were a big inspiration. I even mentioned you in the book just because I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for him. Thank you all for taking the time to listen to this farm update. Check out those chicken tractor plans. I'll be talking about it in the future. I'm sorry I won't be obnoxious with the self-promotion here, but yeah, I love farming. It's really good. It's mid-August right now. Just had Kate's birthday, just launched a book, have a big event coming up, processing batches of chickens. We got 18 200-pound pigs on farm that I now have to manage them eating that. Whew. It is a crazy time of year, and unlike years past, I feel more even and balanced and not necessarily stress-free, because let's be real here. There's a little bit of stress this time of year, but I've been able to realize when I've been stressed, take a step back from it, appreciate how beautiful the farm is and how abundant all the food is this time of year, and that has given me a much better balance. I hope you find the balance in your day. I hope you continue to do the work. That's a nod to Diego Footer, because, man, that guy's an inspiration. And until next time, I will see you out in the field. That's the phrase, right? Out in the field. I'll see you guys in the field. See you later.